Hello, Army. Welcome back to BTS on 7. Today, we're taking you straight into a moment that Army has been buzzing nonstop. A moment that happened far from the glittering lights of a full concert night, yet somehow managed to steal just as much of our hearts. We're talking about Jimin's Soundcheck Day in Foxborough, Massachusetts, ahead of the Boston stop of the World Tour ARIRANG. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why fans everywhere are calling this one of the most effortlessly stunning days he's had in recent memory. Let's set the scene first. Picture a massive stadium, the kind built to hold tens of thousands of screaming fans, but right now it's almost empty. Row after row of blue seats stretch out under the open sky, quiet, still, waiting. There's something almost surreal about seeing a member of BTS standing alone in a space that size, without the noise, without the lights, just him, his mic, and the crew working quietly around him. It's in these stripped-down moments, away from the polish of a full production, that fans often say they get to see the most authentic version of an idol. No elaborate staging, no choreography under pressure, just presence. And Jimin's presence, even in this low-key setting, was undeniable. He arrived dressed in what fans quickly identified as a nylon track set in a muted gray tone, the kind of outfit that looks effortless but somehow ends up defining an entire day's aesthetic. The jacket had a relaxed, slightly oversized cut, with a small circular emblem near the chest and a subtle stripe running down the sleeve, giving it a sporty yet elevated feel. Paired with matching wide-leg track pants, the whole look leaned into comfort without sacrificing style. Exactly the kind of fashion moment that ARMY loves to screenshot, zoom into, and hunt down online within minutes of it appearing. And hunt it down they did. Almost immediately, fans began circulating comparison images, placing his look right next to the brand's official product photos, matching every detail, from the piping along the sleeve to the placement of the logo. It's honestly become a familiar ritual by now. Jimin steps out in something simple, and within hours, ARMY has fully identified the brand, discussed the fit, and probably driven up interest in the piece all over again. There's a reason people jokingly call him a walking fashion campaign. He doesn't need elaborate styling to make an outfit trend. He just needs to wear it. But it wasn't only the outfit that had everyone talking. It was the hair. For months, fans had grown used to seeing him in darker tones, but on this particular day, under the bright open sky of Massachusetts, his hair had shifted into a much lighter, warmer blonde, and the timing could not have felt more fitting. Something about golden hair catching natural daylight, framing his face as he adjusted his in-ear monitor or pushed strands back from his forehead, created this glowing, almost cinematic quality that translated instantly through every photo and clip fans managed to capture. Comment after comment echoed the same sentiment, that he looked remarkably refreshed, striking, like the sunlight itself had been waiting for exactly this shade to catch. Now here's where the day gets even more interesting, because Jimin himself surely knew, even if the seats around him were empty, that a sound check is never really private. There's always someone with a phone tucked into the crowd near the barricades, always someone watching from a gap in the stands, and this day was no exception. Between takes and quiet in between moments, you can see him doing what feels almost involuntary at this point, adjusting his earpiece, brushing his hair back, resting his chin thoughtfully on his hand as he leaned forward, completely unaware of just how carefully every gesture was being documented. There's something genuinely endearing about that unfiltered version of an idol, not performing for the camera, just existing, just working. At one point, he can be seen crouched slightly, elbows on his knees, head tilted down as he adjusted something on his gear, his hair falling loosely over his face. It's a small, almost throwaway moment in the grand scheme of a world tour, and yet it's exactly this kind of candid, unguarded image that fans treasure the most. Because these aren't the moments choreographed for maximum impact under stage lights. These are the moments that slip through, unplanned, unscripted, and somehow end up feeling more intimate than an entire polished performance. As the check progressed, he moved with that familiar ease fans have come to associate with him, microphone in hand, arm occasionally raised high above his head as he tested vocal runs against the acoustics of the massive, echoing stadium. Even without the pyrotechnics, without the backup dancers, without the deafening scream of tens of thousands of fans, there's a certain kind of magnetism that doesn't disappear. You could see it in the way he moved across that stage, testing his mark, adjusting his stance, occasionally glancing back toward the sound booth, completely locked into the technical rhythm of preparing for the night ahead. This wasn't the first stop either, This was actually the second consecutive day of soundcheck preparation for the Boston leg of the tour, meaning the team had been fine-tuning every last detail, from sound levels to stage positioning, ensuring that when the gates finally opened and the stadium filled with fans, everything would run flawlessly. It's easy to forget, watching the final polished show, just how much unseen labor goes into those 2 or 3 hours of performance. Soundchecks like this one are proof of that invisible effort. Hours spent adjusting microphones, testing acoustics, walking through blocking, all so that the actual show feels seamless. And of course, fans couldn't help but flood online spaces with their reactions the moment glimpses of the day started circulating. Many were quick to point out how naturally happy and relaxed he appeared, joking around between takes, occasionally smiling at crew members, seemingly enjoying the quieter rhythm of preparation day. Some fans speculated that being back in a lighter hair color felt like a small callback to earlier eras of his career, sparking waves of nostalgic comments comparing this look to past comebacks. Of course, that's simply fan speculation and personal interpretation rather than anything confirmed, but it says a lot about how deeply invested ARMY remains in even the smallest visual shifts. What made this particular day resonate so strongly wasn't a grand reveal or a dramatic performance. It was the accumulation of small things. The soft gray track set that immediately became a topic of discussion, the blonde hair catching afternoon light in a way that felt almost nostalgic, the quiet, unscripted gestures, adjusting an earpiece, leaning against the stage rail, glancing toward an empty section of seats that would soon be packed wall to wall with fans singing every word back to him. Individually, none of these moments feel monumental, but together they painted the picture of an artist fully present in his craft, dedicated even when no one was technically supposed to be watching. And really, that's part of why these behind-the-scenes glimpses matter so much to fans. They remind us that behind every flawless stage performance is hours of quiet preparation, adjustments, and focus that rarely get seen. They remind us that even during the most routine parts of a world tour, there's still humanity, still small personal moments, still reasons to smile. By the time the actual show in Foxborough kicked off, the empty blue seats that had echoed with soundcheck vocals earlier that day would be filled entirely, transforming into a sea of light and sound, a stark contrast to the quiet sunlit rehearsal captured just hours before. And somehow knowing what came before, knowing the quiet dedication behind those empty stands, makes the eventual roar of the crowd feel even more earned. So that's the story of Jimin's soundcheck day in Massachusetts, a day that started in near silence and ended in celebration, a day defined by soft gray fabric, golden light catching blonde hair, and small, genuine, unguarded moments that fans will likely be replaying for a long time to come. If this story gave you even a small piece of that same warmth, make sure to give this video a like and drop a comment letting us know what part of today's story stood out to you the most. If you haven't already, subscribe to BTS on 7 and turn on notifications, because there's always more to share, and we never want you to miss a single update about Jimin or the rest of the journey ahead. Thank you so much for watching, ARMY, and we'll see you in the next one.